Before really getting started, there's a few things that I need to clarify that are necessary for a really better understanding the future video. So sorry, the first real video is going to be the one after the next video. So try to forgive me for that. Today I'm going to quickly touch up on terms. Terms as in things that, may not be super obvious to the new player, but here's a list of subjects I'm going to discuss. Some I will abbreviate a bunch, we'll cover all of that. Some of this is just going to be terminology. Some will have more extended discussion. The ending half will be much quicker than the first half, so bear with me. But anyway, let's get started. Meta combo. Alright, I know some of you guys are going to want to bring out your pitchforks already when I discuss the term meta combo. And I plan to make a whole video addressing this, the whole Waluigi outrage and all that. We can talk about that there. Today, I want to talk about practicality. Now, I'm not going to tell you to do anything, I'm just here to inform you on what's best. So meta combo means combo, that's best for the online metagame. There are a few components to this. The first is, your character selection. The best characters are DK, Roy, and Waluigi. A lot of top players like Waluigi more than the others because, his frame or visibility purposes. And as someone who's, mained both Roy and DK for notable periods of time, I have to admit that I also feel like Waluigi's better to play as, and I can't fully explain why. I'm just being honest. You can take my word or not, it doesn't bother me. If you're a Rosa simp or maybe the world's biggest Dry Bones fan, nobody's stopping you from playing them. You can try your hand at it. There's a high-level Shy Guy player who's, been one of the best for many years, and one of my close friends even has played a lot of tournament matches and won a lot using Inkling. Certain characters aren't going to disqualify you from winning, just understand that there are slight disadvantages to using some over others. And that is your decision to make if you want to use them or not, and it doesn't make other players lame if they want to use what's just considered the best. As far as tires go, just use rollers or Azure rollers. They're just objectively the best by a large margin, and I promise you that regardless of how you actually think of them aesthetically, the game will be more fun if you use them than other stuff. Your boost will last longer, and going fast is fun. Gliders aren't as impactful, but most top players like using light gliders that are easy to see around, such as the paper or cloud glider. And the first real debate comes with, your frame. And that's really between the Wiggler and the Bitty Buggy. I'm just going to be realistic with you all. If you're a player who's serious about becoming, a very good MK8D player, I think you should just use Wild Wiggler, and this comes from a Bitty Buggy player. If you happen to pick up both, you're likely going to think that you're better with Bitty Buggy than Wiggler initially because it's easier to charge mini turbos with them, and it turns better. It is slower than the Wiggler, though, and Wiggler's not going to mask any weaknesses of yourself, and instead force you to address them. Bitty Buggy can and should become faster than Wiggler, but this only really becomes true at expert level, beyond where I'm at. And even then, Wiggler still has plenty of advantages, such as straight line speed and bump management, that most players point to and say, yeah, I'm just going to use it because it's easier to perform at high level with it. My advice for new players is to just pick up Wiggler from day one, because I think it's better and it will force you to learn the game more. But I will still give an honest assessment of which tracks prefer which frame in the series. In summary though, you have a choice here, but I think one is better than the other. There are vehicles like, the Mr. Scooty that has similar stats to the Bitty Buggy. Others are out there. Just know that Bitty Buggy and Wiggler are most used. Inside versus outside drift. So the frames I just addressed all have outside drift. Some bikes have a feature called inside drift that drastically alters gameplay and playstyle. The overall consensus is that outside drift is better, maybe easier to pick up, but MK8D is also far and away the most balanced game when, comparing the two styles of play. Inside drifting bikes are viable. They have a harder time adapting to things on the spot, but also have some perks such as better rear view mirror, some very strong tracks in particular, and I think that they might even handle bumps a little bit better as well. Now the most common inside drifting frame is the Yoshi bike, and also don't call these bikes inwards. I know it is commonplace, but just don't do it. A lot of new players will look at you funny if you do it, so let's avoid this. Runners and baggers. Now these are terms that loosely describe track types. A runner is a type of track where front running or breaking away in first frequently leads to winning, and top spots are in heavy demand on running courses. A top spot runner, on the other hand, is a term I'll be using to describe running tracks that give a slight advantage to people starting the race in the top spots. Conversely, a bottom spot runner becomes a course where starting in the back of the pack actually leads to the greatest chance of you front running the majority of the race up in first place. A bagger, on the other hand, is a type of track that promotes a strategy called sandbagging. It can also refer to a player who is bagging, Sandbagging is typically associated with messing around or not trying hard in video games, but that's not really the case in this game. It's actually a strategy where you manipulate the item system by purposely staying in bottom spots for a while, with the intention of coming back later in the race. A track that we call a bagger likely has a lot of off-road or other dangerous things like large gaps for frontrunners to deal with. Mixed versus specialist tracks. So this is more of a phrase I'll be using as opposed to a common community term, but not all tracks are pure runners or baggers. Mixed and specialist tracks aren't really opposites either. So a mixed track is one where front running or sandbagging both seem to be viable methods toward obtaining a successful race. Pretty much they're your moderate candidate that can't make up its mind about what's good and evil. One big difference between runners and baggers is that the starting position tends to matter on runners since first place is the holy grail for them. On bagging courses, starting position doesn't really matter since everyone sticks to the back early on in races intentionally. Specialist tracks, on the other hand, are a type of running course where there isn't really an advantage to starting in any spot. Front running is good on these tracks if you're able to obtain first place, but there's not always a reliable method to taking first place on these courses, making many of them picked less frequently. This means the players that win more when these courses are picked are the ones that are simply just strong on the track, or a specialist. And I believe that specialist courses are worth investing time into because they can provide a surprise factor to your opponents if you're practiced on them. Alright, we're going to speed things up a little. Offensive versus defensive play. This one's pretty obvious. Offensive play is focused on delivering hits on opponents, while defensive play is focused on protecting yourself. Offensive play is more prevalent in 6 vs 6 or team matches, while defensive play is more prevalent in FFAs and Mogis. FFAs. This means free-for-all. You versus the other 11 in a room. It's what you do in Worldwides. Mogi, like FFA, it's a 12-player room, but you'll have at least one teammate. There's 2 vs 2, 3v3, and 4v4 Mogis. Split paths. Pretty much this is when a track branches out. This provides a lot of new opportunities, especially in Mogi and team matches, usually allowing for offensive strategy in situations where defense is required. At the highest level of the game, path splits can frequently be used for playmaking opportunities that aren't otherwise there. Lots of times when communicating with teammates, I'll say to split the path, which means the player behind me goes a different way than I do.
Taking advantage of the split path like that is really smart.
Yeah.
This opens up opportunities to back or snipe. Speaking of which, backs or snipes. So traditionally, called back spam more so from the Mario Kart Wii days, backing or a back is simply the offensive action of throwing an item backward with the intent of delivering a hit. A snipe, on the other hand, usually refers to the same thing, but throwing an item forward instead. This is usually a little bit riskier, but can result in you gaining positions rather than just holding people off. One unofficial term that I use is a prank, which refers to throwing an item forward with the intention of it landing behind you. Trails or drags. So trailing an item is the defensive strategy of holding the item button to make an item drag behind you without getting rid of it. This is used to protect from shell snipe attempts or red shells in general, but can also be used as a low-risk offensive weapon if you can connect the item with another driver. Keep in mind that always trailing can be defensively risky though, because the item will be destroyed by a blue shell blast and leaves you vulnerable to boos if you have a coin in the second slot. Spots. So a spot is a common place that a specific item is used. This is usually referring to items in the back or mushrooms. We refer to these specifically as shroom spots, bill spots, shock spots, etc. Keep in mind that you don't want to know about spots just to know where to use items. You actually also want to know about spots to understand how other people might use items, especially for shock spots if you're holding a dodge item. A shock spot might be a place with a large gap, or maybe it's just a chaining spot. And note, what may be a shock spot one lap might not be a shock spot on a different lap. So yeah. Dodge item. This refers to any item that you can use to dodge the shock. This includes stars, bullet bills, and boos. Crazy 8s are technically a dodge item also, and in other games you have megas and hearts that are dodge items as well. Chain and hold. So a chain might actually be the most important thing to take away from this video if you're a new player who isn't adapted to the high-level game yet. Chaining an item is the act of using your last item into the next item set. So the idea here is that you get better items the further back you are, so if you don't use your item, say a star, the most common chain item, to catch up immediately after getting it, you can make your next item pull stronger while still getting the full effect of the chained item, in this instance the star. So chaining is a very common, practice, especially when there aren't specific, more enticing spots to use your items. Common chain items are stars, triple shrooms, and shocks. Goldens, bowling bills, and boos may not be as powerful as you otherwise think because chaining isn't convenient with them. What makes the star such an absurdly good pull is that it is a chainable dodge item that allows you to take off-road cuts and use other items while in it. A hold is simply the act of holding an item through item sets for a specific purpose. This might be because you want to use it at a specific spot or to not mess up a teammate. And holding is typically more common in MKWe and MK7, but it still has plenty of uses in this game as well. For the Manklore fans out there, this is not the same as smuggling. While good for content, item smuggling is not really practical in competitive play and more of a cool occurrence when it does happen. This is mainly because you want to eventually use your items to maximize your chance of finishing first, not just have them in first. And typically, holding is done with the goal of using something at the right time. NISC or NISC, this is an easy one. It stands for no item shortcut. It means you take a shortcut but without an item. Many tracks feature NISC, all ranging in difficulty. Money. If I ever say money, I'm referring to coins. Sorry, I should just say coins, but money is funny. And coins are good. Just get coins, okay? You don't want to be poor. Collect money. Collect them if they aren't out of the way. It's not only how you hold your front runs, but you can't properly sandbag without them either. And while bagging, you can even go out of your way a little bit to get them also. MT, SMT, and UMT. These are your mini turbo tiers. Normal, super, and ultra. Pretty common stuff. Softdrifts. Finally, we're at the end of the video. This is an advanced technique. Matter of fact, it's so advanced that I'm wrapping the video up now and it will be the focus of the next one. So with that being said, we'll see you in that episode, and that will likely be the most advanced tech focused one as well. So after that, it's off to the races. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the soft drifting video coming up soon.